troubled by strange noises in the middle of the night.
Welcome to the SLUSH podcast, the only place on the internet where we cover Ghostbusters to baby diapers and everything in between.
Welcome back. It's been a while. It's the first episode of February, right? Episode 17. And this time we're talking about horror with our new friendly guest, also / co-worker, Henry Townsend. Wow! Also joined by my other co-host, Matt Lyons.
I'm always here, but Henry's once in a million, man.
True, this man has never aged.
Henry basically is our horror guru for all things horror and, everything else, but horror mainly. And you worked on Hobo with a Shotgun and Treevenge back in the day.
Yeah.
So what was it that got you into makeup effects and horror in general? Like, was there like an event or like a one movie or an album? Like, what do you think it all goes back to?
Well, just trying to think. I don't know, man. Like, it stems back like from like a long time ago. It's really weird. I don't know. See, I got into the whole like film thing, going through like just taking the NSCC course. But even before that, I don't know. I've always been a fan of just watching movies and stuff like that. Basically, I also just enjoyed watching and like just reading and listening about basically how they would make things like behind the scenes type stuff, and I was always fascinated by that growing up. And I would just do my own research and stuff like that. And then when I took the film program, it was great because you learn about like lighting and grip and just basically the technical aspects of filmmaking, which I was also really fascinated about. But unfortunately, they didn't really touch on basically a lot of like the whole I guess you could say the like makeup type of effects.
Yeah, there's not a lot of places. Not a lot of places do that here, do they? I don't think there's any actually. Is there in Nova Scotia?
I don't think so. So after I graduated that course, I basically just did my own research, like just continued to do my own research about it, and it was really great because when I did my work term at like there was a work term that I was like just doing a work term program after Screen Arts or whatever. During part of that program, I ran it. There was a friend of mine, John Davies. We kind of shared the same interests. While I was like kind of working in the warehouse, we would just kind of bounce ideas off one another of like, hey, did you ever see this movie? And then we would try to like he would really encourage me like on things on, how to like, hey, you should try to like put that towards, I don't know, like we could shoot like some stuff or whatever and try it out or whatever.
Yeah.
Or even like, we could watch these movies and kind of learn about it or whatever, right? But it was interesting though because he actually knew a lot of other people. We all kind of shared the same interests or whatever, where as we were kind of doing, like he was showing stuff or whatever with, like we were watching movies or whatever. And he's like, hey, we let's like shoot some stuff or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And, I'm sorry, I'm really trailing off here.
No, this is why you're our guest.
You're our first guest to go on such a long tangent, like right away.
Yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
No, it's a good thing.
I'll summarize this in a better way. But anyways, we kind of like shared the same ideas or whatever. We would, even after work, we would watch movies. We would like shoot some stuff or whatever, right? And just kind of bounce ideas off that way. Basically, that like John had a lot of really great ideas that he was trying to get off the ground. And then eventually that's how they did, with Hobo with the Shotgun and stuff like that, right? John always had that idea in the back of his mind. But one of John's friends, Jason Eisner, he was the one that sort of thought of the idea of the Treevenge idea first, and then so we shot that, and that was a really wild experience because even when we were doing that sort of thing, it was just really interesting because there was a couple times where right the night before, we were like, hey, so we actually have somebody has a baby and they're willing to like put this baby on film. We need to come up with this crazy way to have some sort of crazy gore effect scene or whatever, right? So we're just like shooting ideas around or whatever about what we could do, and it was actually like almost the night before when we thought of the idea. It went
Really?
to camera the next day. Yeah,
And that's the crazy part of the whole thing too, right?
yeah, it was nuts.
I don't know if we could show that on screen.
I'll
at
put a
all.
link to it. I'll put a link to it in the description for Treevenge.
Well, so I was like, yeah, we'll show a thing of it, and it's like, I don't know if we can show a photo of that. Like, in retrospect, yeah, it's like a tree crushing like a baby's skull. Like,
Yeah, it's the very end of it, right? Isn't that the last like crazy death in it?
It is spoilers, so if anybody hasn't seen it,
yeah, it's a crazy scene.
It's one of those things where we thought of that. And I always remember it too because it was like the night before, like Jason and I were literally just trying to like figure out a way, and it was at night, so we like had like Jason had this it was basically this baby doll, and we took the head off of it, and we were just trying to find a way how it could like, you know, like the tree would essentially crush it, and it was really hilarious too because that sort of thing, we did that by like I used like the doll or whatever, and we were just using water balloons to do it.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was really fascinating because of the way that it like since it was we did it in the winter time, and because it was like so cold that afternoon when we went to camera for it, like all the water balloons that I had were outside in the cold filled with fake blood or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And when we like put it right to camera or whatever, we put the doll down. I loaded the water balloon up or whatever, and because there was like so much like frost within the water balloon with all the fake blood in it, it almost created like this like ice film in it. So when we crushed it, it essentially just popped and made a wider explosion afterwards. And it, like, because I always remember it when I crushed it, you could almost hear like this sound, and it was because there was like this like frosty like film.
That's so awesome.
It was pretty neat.
It definitely lent itself to the effect, I guess, eh?
Yeah.
So you didn't
Oh my
even have it
God.
planned that far until pretty much the night before. And
Well, we kind of had a plan. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure like Jason had a backup plan if it didn't work out. I don't know. It was one of those things where we're like, hey, let's just try it out. If it doesn't work, maybe we could just shoot something later on for it. I'm not really sure. But yeah, sort of rewinding back to like the whole Treevenge thing. There was like a couple other things that we did even before that. And it was really neat because that was essentially almost like it felt like I was like after Screen Arts or whatever, there was this other project that John and Jason and a bunch of his other friends were like, hey, let's like try to shoot a feature. And it kind of felt like when I was in on it, it felt like that was almost like my other film school. Like we were shooting stuff. I think it was like right after Screen Arts, immediately after Screen Arts, immediately after like my work term.
yeah.
We were like, hey, let's like make this crazy gang feature movie or whatever, right? And we'll have all kinds of crazy effects in it. We did like all kinds of storyboards, and I did a bunch of concept drawings for it.
Whoa.
Or whatever. And we're like, let's just shoot. They were all like, let's just shoot it and like see what happens or whatever. So that's basically what we did. There was a lot of footage that was filmed for it. And it was all on, like, I think mini DV.
How long
tapes
did
or
you shoot it
whatever, right?
for? Was it like a summer or like a year kind of thing?
Oh man, it was like a full summer, and I think there was even like some parts of it was like almost winter time. Like it was really
Wow.
crazy. But I don't know there's a lot of like scenes that you could probably see online, but it's not like a full like not edited together properly. But all the effect scenes I remember were really crazy. Like some of the stuff was like it was so wild because like it was all like guerrilla style filmmaking, like obviously like non-union stuff or whatever. We were trying to like feel like get a feel of what we could all do in each department.
I've seen the footage. It looks crazy.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it was so
Yeah,
fun.
it's definitely wild.
Yeah, like that was one of those things where like I was literally just hanging out in the basement, like coming up with crazy ideas, and then I would literally just bring it out on set to them and be like, and then they're like, man, let's try to film this or whatever, right? And I mean, if it didn't work out, it was just something really fun that we did.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the crazy pressure of some massive union kind of show, right?
Yeah, and that's basically what it is. Just a lot of fun. I mean, yeah, it was pretty wild, man. Like we did so much crazy stuff for that. But yeah, like I'm sure there's like footage out there for it, like the teaser thing that we did. But yeah, I don't know. That was pretty fun. I'm trying to think what else. Wow, I'm really going off here, guys. I'm really sorry.
this is
No
this is
worries.
the whole shtick is just tangents. I like write a list of questions and sometimes we do one, or Sully doesn't read them. It turns out, and then we just do a whole bunch of things.
Yeah. I look at them and I'm like, I'll figure something out. Because
Yeah.
I used to read the questions that you give out, but a lot of times when we're doing the episode, I just don't have anything to bring it up here. I don't have like anything to do for myself.
That's because we get so far off topic, it's not even possible to to bring it back around. Sounds like I haven't been paying attention to the entire conversation up to that point. It sounds ridiculous, but so basically, in a nutshell, you started doing the makeup effects like on camera once you started hanging around with John and them. Did you do any of it in high school or ever?
I actually didn't. Here's something really funny. So, growing up, I don't know, like I was always a fan of basically just the horror genre in general growing up. I think my first sort of like experience, or not experience, like the first sort of thing that I saw that, and I'll always remember this because I was like, man, that's like pretty wild thinking back. So, I don't know how old I was really young. But one time, my mom and dad ended up renting this movie called House,
Oh yeah.
and we were watching it. And I think the first scene in it like this guy goes to this like old lady's house or whatever, in this really old big house or whatever. And I think he's like dropping groceries off. Basically what happens is as soon as he goes in, he sees like the woman, like the elderly woman, that she had like a noose around her neck. And I always remember this, so I was like, whoa, what's that? And then my mom immediately went up to the TV and turned the TV off. And she's like he can't be watching this or whatever, right? Which I could totally understand, because like back, I didn't know at the time what was happening. She was just kind of, swinging back and forth, right?
Yeah.
And then later on, there was this, I think, well, it wasn't called TMN. It was called like the Superstation. Or,
Oh
like,
man, Superstation was the best.
Yeah, I think it was either Superstation or First Choice.
I do remember First Choice as well.
And I'll always remember this. So basically, we used to get these things in the mail every month of what's coming out, and it was this little magazine that'd be in the mail, right? So I always remember this. I opened it up, and we were like just flipping the pages around, and it was actually a photo of Freddy Krueger, and I think it was for part 2, because it was the one where he's like kind of like this or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And he's got like the actually 1 second.
Hey!
Props have been
Yeah.
prepared.
Yeah, he has made a lot of props over the years, even just like
Okay.
building blood messes.
Yeah, it
in
was
his
actually
house.
this image right here.
That's such an awesome cover.
Hey!
So yeah, I'll always remember this because it was on. It was on a program thing of what's coming out that month on the Super Station or First Choice or whatever it was. And I was like, man, who's that? And my dad was like, oh, you don't want to know who that is. And I was like, oh. And I at first, like, back then, I didn't know any better. I thought it was, like, some crazy-looking actor. And he was like, oh, yeah, that's what happens when you don't brush your teeth or whatever. Because he got, like, the really gross-looking, like, teeth or whatever, right? And then later on, my mom was like, oh, he's just trying to scare you or whatever, right? And then it's like, that's just all makeup effects. And so my mom was the one that actually told me about makeup effects, straight up saying that, yeah, it's just makeup, you know, he's just a regular actor, you know, like at the end of the day or whatever, just a regular guy. And I was like, oh, wow, how did they do that? And then later on, see, it's kind of funny because in high school, like, horror movies were there for me, but I wasn't like that hardcore into it because I was like, oh yeah, like there's like part 1, 2, and 3 of whatever, right? But it's just the icons themselves were there, which I thought was really cool, but I never really watched them until a bit later. Probably like, I don't know. Actually, you know what? Okay, I'm just thinking about this now. What really got me into like the whole like final thing of, yes, horror movies are amazing, was actually Freddy versus Jason.
Oh, man.
Hey,
Yes.
let's go.
Because
Shot in
Freddy versus
Vancouver.
Jason, yes, that's right. Freddy versus Jason basically brought all of these like these two big, huge horror icons together, and it was just like, man, that's like, and it was such a crazy time watching it. Unfortunately, it never played in the theater where I lived in.
Oh,
So I had to
no.
watch it later on on like DVD or
What?
whatever.
That's awful. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
But when I saw it, I was like, okay, this is awesome. Horror movies are a lot of fun. I love it.
Dude, and both
Yeah.
franchises just kind of died after that. Like, that was, at least they had a spectacular ending, you know? Freddy versus Jason
Yeah.
is what everybody wanted for, like, you know, 20 or 25 years at
Yeah.
that time. And it finally happened. And it was with, is his name Robert, is it Englund or England? How do you say it?
Robert
I think
Englund,
it's
right?
like England. I don't know. I've always just said England.
The fact that he's in it and he's like, that's the last, I don't know. It's a great ending. I remember I worked at the
Yeah.
movie theater and I let all the kids into that movie when I was at the
that's
box
so
office.
awesome.
It was like, I'm doing you a favor, don't forget this. Because it was rated R. And I would go to do little checks in the theater, like the little check sheets, and I would just stand there and watch. I saw the ending in the theater like probably dozens of times. It was awesome.
Oh wow.
But
Yeah,
that's
because
cool.
that was like that was kind of a weird ending of the movies where like not many movies did crossovers or anything of the sort anymore. Like, I mean, there was some like that in the '60s, where like with Kong versus Godzilla,
Yeah,
and like
That's right. Yeah.
and those obscure like horror icons became back together. But then there was like a long part of time where they just didn't do that, and all of a sudden they brought it back for Freddy versus Jason, and then now we're at a stagnant where nobody does that anymore again.
They did do Alien versus Predator.
Oh my god! I knew I was forgetting something. I knew it.
I don't remember if that was before. I think it was before Freddy versus Jason. I can't remember.
Freddy versus Jason. It might have been during, right? Because I don't think
It was
happened at the
close
same time.
because I worked
It
at the
was pretty
theater.
close, yeah.
I worked at Empire Theaters for both of those because I had a massive standee from AVP. It was
Oh,
huge, and I threw it out. And I was like, "Fuck this movie, man." But I know AVP has like this huge following now for all the kids who grew up with it. But I don't know.
It's okay. I didn't mind it. I mean,
I can't.
I like that one shot where they kind of like when the alien and predator meet, like the predator or the aliens like impales the predator and like raises him up to his face.
Yeah.
That was probably my only favorite part of that movie because it was so crazy, man. But
I
other than
liked
that,
at the end when he had the throwing star and he used that. And I like
that
when
was cool.
he like stabs the queen in like the throat with his little thing at the end. There's really cool parts. It's like the Star Wars sequel trilogy. There's some really fucking cool parts.
You just had to go there. I'm tired of this.
But it's like once you watch Predator and then Predator 2 and then Alien and Aliens and Alien 3 and then you watch AVP, you're like, God damn, like this could have been so much crazier, you know, especially after reading the comics.
It's funny because I went backwards, where I watched AVP first, and then I didn't know what these things were before. And then after this movie, I went to go watch the Alien movies and Predator movies. I was totally reverse of that.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of kids who saw it like as the first movie back in the day. But when I was a kid, Predator, like that's what we played at recess was Predator 1 and 2, and Alien and Aliens. Like those were the only ones. Which is kind of funny because the first two horror movies I saw that really got me into horror were The Gate, which I found was shot in Toronto. Love that movie. And Alien 3 was one of the first ones. And that movie scared the living bejesus out of me. Because the cryotubes, for some reason, the fact that Hicks drowned in his cryotube at the beginning, and Newt, not Hicks, Newt died and Hicks got like impaled or something through it. But yeah, they freaked me out, man. And David Fincher, that was his first movie. He would go on to do like 7 not long after that. Like, that movie is fucked. Yeah. So
that's actually crazy to think about.
Yeah, so when I saw AVP, when I worked at the movie theater, the hype was so real, man. Like, I was so hyped because I collected all the comics as a kid. And it was PG-13. I don't know. That was my biggest.
Yeah, that was so weird.
Yeah.
Thinking back on it, thinking like the other movies are like rated for R or something.
Yeah, like if that was coming out today, if they found out on Twitter it was going to be rated PG-13, people would lose their minds. You know, like they would lose their minds.
It's funny because like there was a kind of like a reverse side of that with one of the most recent horror movies, Five Nights at Freddy's, where people were like kind of worried that it was going to be rated R because the main audience is for people who, they're not, who are into horror movies that aren't like above 18 or so. So
yeah,
because that was the main demographic. Everyone was like, holy shit, how do we make this movie PG-13? And it's like, man, this is supposed to be a really gory film. Like going into this, like we're killing kids in this movie after all. Like, what's going on here?
Did you see it? Is it good?
Oh, I did see it. Yeah.
I didn't see it.
I watched it with my brother bought it on Amazon. We watched it at my place here when they came to visit me.
It did well, right? Like it did pretty good.
Oh yeah, it did really well. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see a sequel.
My niece always played the game, but
the lore came from like all the books and stuff like that were released after the game came out. I think in 2014, I believe. But yeah, it's crazy how big like. Because it started from a horror game to just a jump scare simulator, pretty much. There wasn't really much things going on in the original game. And so the original maker, when he thought up the story, he started writing everything in books to think about how to make the next game. Then he started making more and more of these books and then started selling them. And then he bought up different ideas for Five Nights at Freddy's 3, Five Nights at Freddy's 4. And a lot of times some of them would be prequels, some of them would be like spin-offs to like help build the lore of why and everything is all happening. And it just became so intricate that there's so many YouTubers built their entire careers off Five Nights at Freddy's. Like there was a whole Let's Play of just people playing Five Nights at Freddy's.
I couldn't get into it. I found it so boring. My kid, my niece was playing it, and I'm like, so you just look at the monitors and you turn your flashlight on? Like, okay. Yeah, you stick to that, man.
The first one is definitely aged like a lot. Like it's just a jump scare simulator, like I said.
I think it's because when me and Henry grew up, it was just pretty hardcore, crazy 80s gore and 90s gore. Like there wasn't any like, even Gremlins was like PG-13, and it's fucking terrifying. So it's a new world, that's for sure. You know.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, because even like some of the movies that were classified as kids movies, like Matt was just saying, like. Even like some like I don't know what Monster Squad was rated as.
It's PG.
I used to watch that. Yeah, like that's what I mean. Like we used to watch that like all the time. But now like when I'm rewatching it, it's like, oh wow, this is actually pretty wild, man. The fact that this was like a regular kind of kids movie, like because it was basically like the Goonies with just monsters, right? Which is kind of neat.
The kids in the movies back then, they always impersonated adults, so it's kind of like They were all kind of just adult movies with kids in them.
Yeah.
It was weird. Nobody acted like kids in the movies back then, really.
Yeah, I know.
Even Stand By Me, they're like smoking and they find a dead body, and
That's right. Yeah.
it's a good time back then.
Yeah, I just grew up watching horror movies myself because my mom didn't care how old I was.
Same.
What movie she wanted to watch, she was just
Nice,
like,
yeah.
if I'm gonna watch Nightmare on Elm Street, you're gonna sit here and watch it with me. I don't care. You're not ruining my day. And one of my favorites is because this is actually involved my brother. Growing up, we were terrified after we watched the movie Chucky because we were scared that our toys can come alive and kill us. Right? Like, oh my god, that's so real. Like, I mean, like a 6-year-old, like that could happen. That could be me. So. Oh my god, my mom played this cruel prank. Oh my god, she already knew we were afraid of it, and then she would, like, whenever we were doing something bad, like one of your jokes would come to life, like Chucky, and if you don't put them all away, and like clean up time, whatever. Then eventually, my mom really wanted to play a big prank on both of us, where she bought a Chucky doll. And
Nice.
while we were outside playing, she didn't tell my dad about this, right? So she bought a Chucky doll and left it in our bedroom since we shared a bedroom at the time. And then as we're coming in from playing outside, and we come in and then we go in our rooms to go play with our toys there. We just see a standing Chucky doll just saying, "We're gonna kill you," like I'm gonna kill you, like ah, and he's screaming, doing his freaking stabbing thing. Me and my brother were like freaking out, like. And then it took me out of it because my brother was so scared. He was like backing up in front of me, pushing himself on me, and then he fainted in my arms. And I was crying, laughing. Ah!
That is awesome.
And I was like trying to drag him because he was just like plopped out on me, man. And so I like dragged him out, and eventually he was too heavy, so I dropped him. I was like, "Mom, Chucky's gonna kill us!" And then my dad's like comes running in. He's like, "What's going on? What are you talking about, Chucky? Like, did it turn that movie damn on? Like, what's going on here?" And then he goes in the room and she's a Chucky doll, and he's like, "Les, what the hell?"
See?
And he takes the toy, wraps it in a blanket, and then he gets mad at my mom, like, "What are you doing, freaking out the kids?" Like,
Does she
like,
still
I thought
have
it'd be
it?
funny.
Tell me you still have the doll.
No, we don't have that.
Should we get a doll and try to redo this prank on your brother again?
Actually, this comes back. Funny enough, like 20 years later, my sister is so obsessed with horror at the time, and then she got really into all the Chucky movies, Son of Chucky, Bride of Chucky. She was marathoning them all, and then she wouldn't stop talking about wanting a Chucky doll for like Halloween or Christmas. So then my mom went to my brother and was like, "Chance, listen to me. I'm buying your sister a Chucky doll." I was like, "Nope." It's like, "I'm buying her a Chucky doll." Like, "Nope." It's like, "Listen, like, I understand your history with this damn doll, but like, she really wants it." And she's like, "You wouldn't stop talking about it. It's the only toy I can think of getting her for her." He's like, "You have to. I'm really coming with you. Like, you have to really like bury this in for you to make your sister happy." He's like, "All right, fine, but don't let that thing anywhere near me."
Dude,
Yeah.
it's crazy
And
you can even buy those because back in the day there was nothing for Child's Play. The closest you get was the Movie Maniacs toy, and that was it. I wish that we had all this stuff back then. That would have been so cool.
Oh man, yeah.
But if you can make one of your children faint from a prank, that's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Like, that's a point right there.
Yeah, man.
It's a cruel prank thinking like, man, I don't even know why. Like we were like 6, 8 years old at the time. Like she just did not hold anything back.
I hope Bennett likes horror movies. I don't know when to. I think I'll start him off on stuff like, I don't know, The Real Ghostbusters is a pretty good gateway to horror, I think. And Goosebumps, I think. Goosebumps is actually scary as fuck. I'm not gonna lie.
Goosebumps are probably the best way for that because
It's so good, man. Yeah.
Or Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh, Are You Afraid of the Dark is also a really good one too. Yeah, man. Yeah, because right now, like right here in the basement, there's a lot of like sort of horror paraphernalia that I have here. It's really funny because like a lot of times they just kind of look at the covers and stuff like that, but they don't like ask about it. They're just like, "Hey, actually, I got a bunch of Goosebumps books right here."
Holy shit, that's a lot of Goosebumps.
And they're always like pulling them out. They're all out of order now, but they're always like pulling them out and looking at the covers, but then they're just putting them back.
That's the covers are, That's one of the things I really liked about
Oh.
books and book fairs back then. You could look at it and be like, I'm reading that one with the puppet.
Yeah,
you know?
man. Like even stuff like that. Like that's so crazy. Like
It's
hilarious. You know.
Man,
It'd be
I didn't
fun
have
to
the
illustrate.
attention-
From Mars.
I did not have the attention span. I always rented out like Goosebumps books when I was a kid. Like I'm gonna read this, but I look at it, I'm not gonna read this and bring it back.
Oh, really?
I did not have the attention span to read. And it's
Damn.
still prevalent
Yeah, that's
today.
alright.
Hey, you should get it on audiobook, you know?
Yeah, I feel like I probably could.
You probably could. I'll look into it. Next episode, we'll do a review.
I don't know about that myself.
But no, those are pretty
yeah.
scary. I thought Goosebumps, like even when I was a kid, even though I watched Ghostbusters, I know that they're horror, but I never considered them horror. Like I just thought that the technology was cool to trap a ghost and like go find ghosts with, you know, equipment and trap them. I thought it was really cool, but it never occurred to me that it was really horror until I was older. But Ghostbusters, I think, would be a good gateway. But as far as like actual scary horror, I think Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark would be pretty good for that. Some of the Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes, I had nightmares a lot as a kid watching those. Those were scary.
Yeah, do you remember that one? There was one episode I remember where it was like about chlorine, and there was like this chlorine monster in the pool.
Yes.
Where they put, I forget what type of chlorine they put in, but he's basically this like red like zombie that rises out of like this swimming pool. Like it was really creepy, man.
Yeah, I remember I watched it with my niece. I was getting her to watch Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark at the same time. We would go back and forth because she was 7. I was like, you've seen Pet Sematary. You should be fine, you know? She's still, to this day, she's 16 now, will not watch Pet Sematary again because of the guy with the blood all over his face who's like, time's up, Doc. That guy.
Oh, man. That's
She
a freaky scene.
gets nightmares from it still, and she loves horror movies. But after I showed her those 2 shows, she got super into horror after that, and she got into anime from horror because there's tons of like horror stuff like that. And that was her gateway into manga and anime, was through horror, through Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps. So
Oh, that's so sad. Not because not like the whole aspect of it, but like there's just so many bad horror manga out there. It's just there's very few good ones. I
Berserk
love
is
Shinji-
cool.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
That's why I like the manga version of like a lot of horror because I think that's where it excels. But there isn't really many good like horror animes out there that aren't really like new or prevalent. Because a lot of times
Horror
it's
anime.
like because Junji Ito, I guess he has anime now too, but I think they did disservice to his art style because you can watch them on Netflix now, but they did kind of spoofs it more so than actually like appreciates more what he was doing. Because Junji Ito is kind of like the mangaka version of Stephen King, where he just takes like fairy tales from old Japanese folklore, or he just takes from stories he thinks of himself, and he just starts writing and drawing and making these stories. He's like the one horror author I collect myself. Yeah,
That's pretty sweet. I think there's like a Netflix show about that, I think.
yeah. That's what I was saying. I think there's 2 series of it. They're not
Yeah.
very good, unfortunately. I think they're like okay at best, but they don't really. I guess it's probably because the same way like how I feel like Berserk, right? Because Berserk is even like dark fantasy horror, where the art style really showcases what it can do, and Junji Ito is kind of really the same case. And
I don't think she's
but
read
since it's-
Berserk.
But since but since Junji Ito is kind of like grounded reality horror more so than like dark fantasy like Berserk story was, it just a lot of it didn't really land, I guess, well when you started adding more color to it and more different aspects and animation to it. That's one part I didn't really like about the show, and there isn't really many much horror anime. It's like kind of the same state of the horror movies, recent horror movies. There's very few good horror movies lately.
No, I don't think that's true. Megan was really good. So was
Megan's
Talk to
cool.
Me. There's tons of great horror movies coming out.
Yeah.
What do you
Pearl
think,
was
Henry?
great.
Yeah, Pearl and X were awesome.
Yeah.
Uh,
Pearl was awesome. I'm trying to think. You know what was a really fun movie was Thanksgiving. I
Still have to see
yeah,
that.
I mean, there was some stuff in it that I think obviously like that I feel like they couldn't have gotten away with it. Compared, like if you watch like the trailer, obviously, yeah, there's some really crazy stuff in like the fake Grindhouse trailer, which they tried to recreate in it. But you know what? For what it was, I thought it was still like a lot of fun. apparently they are talking about doing a sequel to it.
Yeah,
so
I saw that.
Interested to see what that's going to be like. But yeah, actually saw that in the theater. That was the last movie that I saw in the theater, and you know what? It was actually a lot of fun for what it was. Yeah,
I heard it was good. There's a lot
it's
of
pretty
movies
cool,
I haven't
yeah.
seen. The last one I saw was Barbie because I've been at home with Bennett.
You've been so upset about Barbie. Every time you're like, man, I can't believe Barbie was the last thing. Every time, like, when was the last movie I watched? Barbie. Oh my god.
I know. I mean, it was a great movie, but I would have liked to have seen Godzilla -1. That would have been
Yeah.
pretty cool.
That's still in theaters now.
It is, but am I gonna be able to see it? No, probably not.
That's true.
The only movie I'll be able to see is Ghostbusters, and that's like something I need to plan like 2 months in advance right now. So I'll be back to my regular scheduled programming. But yeah, I don't know. With anime, I don't know of any horror stuff. I don't know what she's watching. You know, she would have been like 10 at that point. So, I mean, even Sailor Moon has some horror elements in it when they fight certain shit, you know? That's all gateway into like larger anime, I think, and manga, because she got obsessed with it. Like, she has bookshelves full of manga, like tons and tons of it. So I'm just glad that she got into something cool instead of something like, you know, Linkin Park or something.
Wow. You don't even understand how in tangent Linkin Park goes with anime, because YouTube was crazy back in the day.
You don't have
like,
as... No, Sully.
How
No.
many times people made like Linkin Park edits of like people's favorite anime? It'd be like a Naruto like a music video edited of like crawling in and shit like that. It's
We'll have to
great,
have
man.
Justin
It's so
on, and you and
everywhere.
him can do a whole Linkin Park episode together.
Oh man.
It's like our most popular episode somehow. But yeah, as far as music, what do you guys like? Like, for me, I really like, I don't know, like for video games and stuff, me and Sully were talking about Metroid the other day. Metroid is pretty wicked. Resident Evil, like, I don't know who did the score for the games. Is it consistent or is it always different?
It's kind of like Resident Evil has like different eras of like music, where like Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, and like Code Veronica, all have a certain style of music that really goes with like how the kind of our style goes with.
Yeah.
And then in next era would be like Resident Evil 1 remake, Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 4, and then Resident Evil 5, and all have this like dark, more atmospheric music where it kind of sounds more better. And then lately, as of now, with the most recent series of like remakes of Resident Evil, they took a lot of inspiration from their own self of Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, which is like almost nothing like a Resident Evil game, like until like the very end. Yeah, where it has like a very like the House of a Thousand Corpses type style instead of.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Resident Evil 7 was a really scary game. It actually like freaked me out quite a bit. That's why I don't think I would ever be able to play that in like VR, because just playing it regularly at night, I was like, man, this is like pretty freaky stuff, man.
That's cool. Did you have
Yeah.
headphones on while you were playing it?
No, I was just playing it on just the regular TV.
Damn.
Oh, man.
That's
Crazy.
effective, man.
Yeah.
Do you think
Wait,
that's
that
the
was-
scariest you've played, Resident Evil 7?
I'm trying to think. That was the one in the house, right? It wasn't like the with the
was the one- that
the
was
giant
the house.
claw lady, right?
That was the one in the house, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that one was really freaky. Yeah. I'd probably say that one was pretty scary. Alien Isolation also freaked me out when I was playing that, because I got it when it first came out, and it was like I got the Nostromo edition, which is
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
neat because there's like bonus sort of additional things you can do in it. But yeah, that game actually freaked me out as well, because it wasn't just an alien; it was a bunch of other things that were like trying to get you. Like, it was really freaky. Yeah.
I bought it, but I haven't played it yet for Xbox 360. I got the
Oh, man,
Nostromo
you gotta
edition
play it.
too.
Yeah, you
You
would
gotta
really
play it.
enjoy
It's really good, man.
I
Yeah.
know. Well, I was gonna say the scariest game I've ever played in my life was the first Aliens vs Predator game for PC,
Oh,
like back in 1999. I always wore these headphones. I've had these headphones for 25 years, believe it or not.
holy crap!
I know. I used them when I was an
Whoa.
animator too. So, yeah, these are the same age as you, Sully. They work great. So 25.
Kind of.
But I love that game. I always wore headphones, and my mom and my sister would always be like, you're literally screaming playing a video game in there. Like, what's going on? And I remember it was the first game you could shoot lights out, and it would actually go out. And you had flares that you could throw and light up and use infrared. It was just so scary. What do you think, Sully? What's the scariest game you've played?
Scariest game I played? Well, I'm a bit more dull to horror games now because I love a lot of them. But as of the scariest horror game I've ever played, probably had to go with like Resident Evil 7. I think it really revolutionized like how horror games went, even like how Resident Evil itself went forward. Because like before then, it was like I go back to like Five Nights at Freddy's, because Five Nights at Freddy's did I kind of like a resurgence of how horror should be in terms of like games, because a lot of times it's like jump scare horror, and it just let's plays, YouTubers making so much content on stuff like this, and then Game Theory, who dedicated most of his career to Five Nights at Freddy's, did so much aspect, even like Slender, The Arrival, and like Collecting the Eight Pages, games like that were really prevalent in horror. There wasn't very much outside of like Resident Evil and big names. Like another one is like Dead Space, where it's really like alien inspired, where they go to a ship and it's abandoned.
Yeah.
And this freaky alien took over the whole ship, and you're stuck on it and have to find a way to get out.
But it's Silent Hill. Those are horror games, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Silent Hill is also really good. I like the first one quite a lot. And recently they announced that they're making a Silent Hill 2 movie and a remake of the original Silent Hill 2 game. And they recently released a PS5 original Silent Hill game like 2 days ago, actually, I think. It was really new.
Didn't they do the first movie in Canada?
I think they did, yeah. I think it was in Toronto or something like that.
Yeah, that's all I've ever seen from Silent Hill. But I thought it was really creepy that, isn't it like it would start, there was an alarm that would start or something, and then the environment would change to like, I can't really remember.
It has like the nuclear alarm sounds going off whenever you hear it. Yeah.
It was cool.
It changes the whole world, and now there's more monsters and everything like that around.
Yeah, and that dude had the pyramid thing, and he had the
pyramid head.
That was cool.
Yeah, because that's the one where he like grabs like the woman and just like rips her skin off. It was pretty crazy. Man. Like,
dear God.
Oh man. Yeah, that was like pretty freaky too. Yeah.
What about a cool horror game? Because I feel like for me, the first and only game that I feel like that is Doom. I love Doom.
Ooh, yeah, Doom's good,
play
man.
That shit on anything, baby.
Yeah, you could. You could play it on like a Texas Instrument, I think, and like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I think there's only one version. I was watching a video on YouTube, and there's one version with like the actual metal soundtrack. Because I think on like Atari Jaguar, there's no soundtrack. It's just like gunfire and screams of monsters when you kill them, which would take away. I think you got to have the heavy metal in it. So.
Yeah.
Well, what do you guys think? What are your thoughts? Just a cool horror. Doesn't have to be scary, but horror. Like Metroid is like sci-fi horror. I feel like Alien.
Yeah, it's sci-fi horror. Doom is sci-fi horror. Halo
Doom is pretty horror though. There's a lot of like heads exploding and.
I feel like later on it does. A lot of times it's like running gun, blood, and gore. It wasn't really scary, more sorts.
Yeah, I'm not saying scary. We're just talking about cool horror.
I think I was gonna say Duke Nukem kind of scared me more.
Duke Nukem.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think Duke Nukem was scary, but it was definitely cool.
Because like you had those girls who were cocooned up on the walls of spaceships and shit like that, and who are pods you to save them, and some you couldn't save, you just to shoot them dead. It was.
You mean in like the Duke Nukem 3D kind of games?
Yeah,
I started off at Duke Nukem 2. It was like a side scroller on Commodore, or not Commodore. I think it was a Compaq back in the day. The game was great.
Maybe Commodore 64.
That's how we roll in these parts. But yeah, Duke Nukem 3D is great.
Going way back in the vaults for it is Halloween / Texas Chainsaw Massacre for Atari 2600.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, dude.
Yeah,
that's real old school stuff for that video game violence there.
I love the Angry Video Game Nerd when he like reviews those. It's awesome that you own them. Like that's wicked, dude.
Man, yeah, I got them right there.
That's so cool.
Yeah. It's the double ender too, so it's kind of neat. So you can just like flip it around. Here, I'll show you guys real quick.
Yeah, because the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or was it Halloween? I think it's Halloween. Halloween is the first video game gore ever, right? Because when you cut their heads off, the blood comes out.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, when you're playing it, if you get you'd be walking, and then all of a sudden Michael Myers comes out, and he actually does decapitate people, but it's in the Atari 2600 graphics, which is pretty hilarious.
I love that the
So
song
this
just
is
plays
the,
over and
the
over.
double ender here. Wizard Video put it out. Pretty hilarious.
Yeah,
That's
it's a pretty
awesome.
Cool. Oh, it's like a dual thing. You flip it around. Ah.
Yeah, if you want to play Halloween, you just pop it in this way, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one, it's like, but yeah, it's a pretty hilarious game. Like, I mean, for what it is, I'm like, man, and it even plays like the Halloween theme music, but in the Atari like type music. It's really funny. Yeah.
There's a bunch of firsts in that, because I don't know of any other Atari games where they have a song in it like that, where it's from a movie. Like, I know Raiders of the Lost Ark was one of the first video game adaptations for a movie ever. But Halloween, I think, is the first one with a theme song in it. Or unless E.T. has it, I can't remember.
E.T.'s got the one when you first started up too. It's kind of, which is really cool. Yeah, man, I always remember when I first got the Atari 2600 like a few years ago. The first game that I played was E.T. So as soon as I started it up and that song kicked in, I was like, man, this is really awesome.
And it's not even a bad game. Like, there's so many worse, you know, like.
Yeah. Well, I'm really going off.
We went from horror to E.T. I love it.
Yeah, man.
Even E.T. is scary. You know?
Same topic, man. Yeah. The game was horrible.
Yeah.
They decided to bury it in the desert. Like,
No, I've been reading a lot about that. I love that that's the consensus, but it's so wrong. I love it. Or the other conspiracy theories that they never actually buried the game, even though they had 10 archaeologists on staff who like uncovered it. I love that. But even
so, what is the actual consensus of that?
What? Like the event?
Yeah, what happened? I thought it was true for so long. Is it not?
I thought it was true.
About it being buried? Or about the video game industry crash? Like, what was responsible?
Well, the E.T. being buried.
E.T. what? Yeah, it wasn't just E.T. It was it was almost 800,000 cartridges that they offloaded in trucks. And they buried all of them. And kids were sneaking in at night into the dump and stealing the video. Like, some kids have the video game cartridges. So in the documentary that Xbox actually paid for to get done, I think in 2014, I think it was, some of the kids who still live in the area who are adults now came back to the dig to watch them dig it up, because it was like a slab of concrete on top of all of it to stop people from going in and stealing them at night. And they also bulldozed it and crushed a lot of it too. But yeah, it was it's like 780,000 cartridges, all different games. It wasn't just ET. The crash is just because of the oversaturation. So there's consoles that are in there and trackballs and everything. Like, tons of pretty high-end shit from back in the day. It's crazy that they just buried it. They could have just sold it. It's ridiculous.
I know, right?
It's crazy that they would never do that today, ever. That would never happen.
It's a really fascinating documentary too, man. Like, oh yeah, it's pretty cool. I forget where I watched it on, but yeah, the entire documentary is, the lead up to it is like so crazy. Because at first I actually thought myself like that wasn't a real thing, but the fact that they were showing excavators dig up all these old, like, you know, cartridges, and not even cartridges, packaging, like old packaging from them in the car, like in the boxes or whatever. I was like, holy crap, like that. It was a really cool doc, man. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, it's
pretty good. They were really worried, the city, that when they were digging it up, they'd like unleash a bunch of weird gases and shit, because they claimed that there were like dead animals that were also put in underneath the Atari stuff. So if they punctured it, it would be like some toxic gas stuff. But now you can buy the cartridges, and they're like mega expensive, the ones that were excavated. They have a bunch of them on display because technically the state owns them. So
Okay.
any money, I guess, goes back to the state because they technically own all these cartridges. So there's museums with them. There's ones you can get on eBay. They're hell of expensive though, but it would be cool to own one. I would love to own one.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a really big tangent. So how do we get on that one? E.T. Think about E.T. is another 80s kids movie, but it's fucking scary because E.T. gets sick and Elliot gets sick, and they're both like have all like the white rooms and shit, and E.T.'s fucking dies. Like that like ruined kids' lives back then. Like I don't know if they could get away with doing that now. It would just break too many little hearts. It would be amazing, but I don't know.
It's pretty wild. I remember, well, even like gameplay of ET for Atari, even when you die, you actually turn all like white and corpse like.
Oh my
But
god.
it's saying Atari graphics, obviously. But he still like lays down like this, and it's like, oh my god, it's recreating like the scene in E.T., like the movie where everybody's just like
Terrifying.
You know, after you die, it's really funny.
Where's our ET game remake at this point? Where is it? I want to see this real live.
That would be crazy if they did that. That
Yeah.
would be so funny.
It's like
but,
a hide and seek game.
That's not right. It's just not right. Yeah. So. Yeah. So what do you guys think? This is just another random question. What is the scariest scene you've ever seen in one movie? Does anything come to mind? The scariest scene that always gives you the goosebumps. No pun intended. Sully, I'm looking at you.
I gotta really think my horror knowledge library in my head here, because scariest movie scene, right?
Yeah.
Oh. Man, I honestly like all those scary scenes I'm thinking of aren't like really in like horror movies. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay, it doesn't have to be in a horror movie, I guess, right? Like, wait, what are you referring to exactly? What movie?
I don't
My
know why
Little
I keep
Pony.
going back to, I wish to actually. I won't even go there.
No, you have to go there. You gonna bring up bronies?
Okay. So my it's at Halcon like 2015.
I've heard this story.
Yeah. So, we're there. I went there with my younger siblings and whatnot. We're going to all like the Avengers and stuff like that. And then we're like, oh my god, one of the writers of My Little Pony is here. That's amazing. So we went to go over there, and like the culture of like bronies was real, man. I've never seen like guys like your guys' age, who just like dressed up and had the whole things going, and like with their daughters who aren't even dressed up like them, and just full on brony crowd waiting to get their signatures from the author there.
Wow.
And then and then you can see all the girls with their mothers like, what's going on? They're just trying to get their dinner. It's like, whoa, this is like, do you like My Little Pony at all? Just like, I don't know what that is. Okay, cool, let's get out of here. This is weird.
Dude, we should do a fundraiser where if anybody gives us any money, we'll put it to IWK, but Sully has to cosplay as the brony at the next Halcon, like hardcore. Like, just ruin everything. Just, That is a horror story right there. That's,
man. Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Hopefully, that gave you guys some ideas while I was ranting on.
I got goosebumps from that.
I'm scared right now. Man.
I'm scared too.
I don't know. I don't know what this was from. You guys can. Okay, so I'll paint a scenario for you guys, because this did freak me out growing up as a kid. So I don't remember what movie this is or show if it is, but there's a bunch of these kids that go to this lake. It's go to party, spring break, whatever. They have a truck, goes by thing. They get a picnic all set up on the side. And they all go start swimming in the water. But then there's this little black smog in the water.
Creep show
like
2.
Oh, I know what it is. Yes, that's right.
Hey, that's what it is. And it just creeps up to the kids and then like plops into them, eating kids slowly and slowly.
That movie.
And then eventually like it starts getting around them, and they start hiding on rocks and logs just to get away from it. And then like the main guy who gets away onto the beach, like, oh my god, I got away from it! Holy crap! And then the thing just leaps off.
It's freaky.
That's a great short film. All those
Yeah.
Creepshow. Their Creepshow is a series now. I think it's on Amazon, isn't it?
That's right. It's on. Yeah, there's. You can watch like newer episodes on Shudder. Actually, yeah. I don't know what season it's on now, but it's basically like an anthology TV series
Yeah.
now, which is kind of neat. I haven't watched all of them yet, but there are some really fun ones for sure. Yeah.
That's, you know what, Sully? That is a really good one because I remember the exact same thing you were saying, and then years later I tracked it down and realized it was Creepshow too, and then I bought the poster and I got the movie on VHS. They're literally here in this room. I can't find them.
Nice.
Yeah, because I used
Yeah.
because me and my friends used to go do that a lot. Go random like areas to go swim at.
Yeah.
Yeah, ET. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I used to go see a lot of beaches and stuff like that. After watching that, I was like, man, what if something's like that in the water? Like eventually we're like looking at things differently. It was bizarre.
I won't go swim in lakes because of shit like that I saw when I was younger. I've swam 2 islands in the ocean, like kilometers through water with sharks, but I will not swim in a lake. I just don't like it. I don't like it, and it's because of Creepshow too, and Friday the
Water lakes,
13th.
man.
I just-
right, man.
You can't
Can't
really
touch the
float
lake.
in them as well as the ocean. They freak me out, and the bottom is like nothing's moving, so things settled in there. I can't even.
Actually, did something really cool when on area of my reserve, me and my buddies, we called it a dam because it's just like a small where you can make a dam for beavers. Anyways, where we used to all go swim and whatnot. So we used to take these rocks. We call it Jack Sparrowing, where we take the rocks and start going in the water and just start walking in the bottom of it. and
Oh
see how
my
deep it can
God.
go. And then there's one deep area to just like first it's kind of like kind of slowly then concave so deep like 20 feet into the water. So we like got our rocks and jumped into it and it slowly went down into it. Eventually looked up like wow, I actually don't know what the surface is anymore. So we like dropped our rocks and swam back up. And that was like the first time I was like, man, am I gonna drown here?
Terrifying.
Because I'm swimming,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
swimming
pretty
up.
scary.
I was like, man, that looks like the surface, right? Yeah, it's gotta be right there, right? Come on, it's right there. Oh my god,
Fuck
I have no
that,
air in
man.
me. And then like as soon as I started gargling water, I got up to the top and like, oh, okay, okay, I'm good. That was close.
Dude, no.
Man.
I've seen
I
too
love
many
it.
movies in the 80s and 70s where kids die in lakes. It's too scary. I just
Oh,
am
man.
freaked out.
Well, get this. Like, I think there's a place somewhere. I'm trying to think where it's at in the States, but in one of the, like a remote lake somewhere is in the States. If you actually, it's a pretty deep lake. You can actually swim down, and somebody actually built like a life-size dummy, like a life-size thing of Jason Voorhees, and he's literally like chained to the bottom.
That's
so he can't
awesome.
rise. But yeah, you can watch videos of people trying to find him, and when they do find him, it's actually pretty freaky because it's so dark and murky going down the lake as we're swimming to try to find him, and he's literally just like there, chained up, like floating at
That's
the bottom
awesome.
of the lake floor. There, it's pretty nuts. Yeah,
I'm so glad somebody did that. I love that
Yeah.
whole lore of Jason. It's like, you know, after part 6 that he's chained up at the bottom of the lake, and then they get him back there again at the end of part 7, and then 8, they like, what do they side swipe him with a boat or something while he's under there, and they wake him up. But I love that because I don't know. It's like, how else do you get rid of Jason? Just chain him to a boulder at the bottom of Camp Crystal Lake, you know? It did
Yeah,
the
and it
trick for
seems to
3
work.
movies, so
That's right.
True.
Yeah.
True.
2 movies.
Oh
Yeah.
man. Yeah. Oh, Friday the 13th. You know what? I think for franchises though, I think Friday the 13th is probably the most consistent out of like a lot of these other franchises that they were pumping out back in like the 80s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
One thing that I enjoyed about it too is even in the intros, it would kind of catch you up on what was happening throughout these other like movies if you missed one. So that's what I kind of liked about it. It was hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty consistent because you could see, like, oh, that mark is from when the machete went into his head in that movie, and it stayed there for X amount of movies. Those were my favorite. I liked the Freddy movies as well, but I noticed that they would, if they had a miss, they would try to reinvent themselves. And it was kind of like really, really different from the other ones. Like, didn't make any sense
man.
different.
Plus the way that like some of them ended, it was like what, or like the way that he was brought back. The only thing that I liked about like I love the Nightmare on Elm Street movies as well, mainly because of the fact that every kill scene was so creative and over the top. Like it was pretty wild. I always remember part 3 where like he takes like the slices the guy's like tendons and he's like walking around like a puppet. See, that stuff is so wild to me. Like when it comes to like crazy effect stuff like that, it's like what a crazy idea to like have for your movie. You know what I mean? Like as opposed to just somebody like walking around with like a knife and stabbing them randomly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Like that's why I really liked the new Evil Dead Rise movie. That movie was fucking awesome. Like I had such a good time when they. I honestly like from start to finish. I was so worried going into that. It's like, how are they going to do another Evil Dead? You know, we got lucky with the reboot, but now they're making another one. Like, and it's like, I can honestly say, of all of the horror franchises, I love all the Evil Dead movies that they've made. Like,
oh, they're great.
Yeah, because it goes to like insanely goofy to extremely serious.
Yeah.
Like,
like even the remake.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go on.
Oh yeah, well, I was going to say sorry. I thought I was gonna like go.
No,
but,
no.
yeah. But even the remake, I guess it's a remake. I don't really know. It's a reboot of it. I was like so blown away on how crazy, like gory it was. Like they really went all in on their like.
It's scary.
Like blood effects, like especially like the last scene where it's literally like it literally rains blood near the end of the movie for a long time. Like it was the craziest thing I've ever seen in like a newer movie. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, I after we watched the new Evil Dead Rise, I was like, man, I can't remember. Like I remember I liked the reboot, but I should just watch it. And that night I watched it with these headphones on a laptop, and I was like scared myself shitless because it actually is a good, like pretty damn good horror movie.
Yeah,
and it's a reboot, which is crazy.
I know, man. Like I was extremely impressed by that movie. Like it was so good. Yeah.
Yeah, Evil Dead Rise. I liked that the earthquake and stuff, and they just find the record, and then man, that whole scene where she plays the record and they conjure the demons up. It was so good. Like that movie was really fucking cool, I thought.
Yeah, they really built the atmosphere up a lot in that one. I think it really played well into how they were gearing up towards everything started to unfold insanely quick and everything like that.
And it was going to be a streaming service movie. That's wild. Like
yeah, I don't think it would have. I don't know. That's definitely a movie to see like in the theaters for sure. I thought.
Yeah, that opening with like the text coming up was fucking crazy. What a great opening. So cool.
Yeah.
I hope they do more.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like even like when they did that, they were releasing all these like really cool promotional things for it. Like they even had like this old style like 80s. Yeah, there you go. Evil Dead 2, man. That's also another banger, man. Yeah. But yeah, like with Evil Dead Rise, like the promotional stuff that they were doing, it was like that really cool poster that they had of like the old high-rise building, like the really tall high-rise or whatever, with like the crazy like deadite claw going over the building. It was freaking cool, man.
That reminded me of Poltergeist 3 or something. I don't know. It gave me which is crazy because the little girl died while they were making that, right?
That's right.
That is fucked. I didn't find out until I was way older, and I was just like, those movies got even scarier after I found that out.
Yeah, I think she was like really sick or something like that. Like something, I don't know the whole story about what happened to her, but I think she just was really, really sick, and yeah, she just passed away like during that or so. I don't know if it was during. I think it might have been after. I can't remember.
Well, it is.
I do know one like kind of early highs. Twilight Zone had that horrible helicopter crash that
my god
killed some of the kids in the
dude
in the scene and whatnot.
Killed two kids and the main actor in it. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That was absolutely insane. And that guy kept making movies after he made Thriller, which is pretty crazy. John Landis, that is fucking crazy. And American Werewolf in London, that movie was so good.
I love that movie, man.
That's
Yeah,
another weird movie. It's a comedy, but the horror in it is so scary. Like
It's freaky.
that whole ending
bed
when they're in the
scene.
subway, the witch scene.
Yeah. The bed scene where it's like it shows the shot of like the guy in the woods or whatever, and he's just like that,
Yes.
like doing like the crazy like werewolf like fangs and stuff.
Oh my god.
Okay, that was a freaky scene. If you want to reel it back to like scary stuff or whatever.
No,
Yeah,
that was
would've made
scary.
me jump when I first saw that. Yeah.
Even the effects when he's changing, because the guy who did the makeup effect, is it Rick Baker who did that?
I think it was, yes.
And he did the thing as well, didn't he?
I think I know that a lot of it was that Rob Bottin that did the thing makeup, because there was like there was a really cool documentary that came with the thing special features where Rob Bottin is like straight up just talking about like a lot of the like the crazy like puppets that he had to do for the thing, and all these like crazy practical effects for it. I think maybe Rick Baker was involved. I can't remember.
Maybe he was like an intern, or I don't remember. I could be horribly wrong, but
same here. Yeah.
But you know what? If we're on the topic of makeup effects still, I think that The Thing is probably the best practical makeup effects movie I think ever made, to be honest.
Yeah, The Thing's really good. I'm trying to think of other ones. The Thing had really good ones.
The Fly had a really good one.
Ooh,
yeah, The Fly is cool. Fucking Jeff Goldblum. His dick's in a jar behind a door.
Yeah. The Fly had some really, really good stuff like that, man. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Trying to think what else. Dead Alive had some good stuff.
Dead Alive
Like,
is pretty crazy.
Crazy puppet, crazy gore, crazy blood. Like, that was pretty wild, man.
I just think of that one scene in Total Recall when he like goes into space and just like guy just
He's like,
Dude, that happens like multiple times in that movie. Their eyes are coming out because they like are on Mars with the atmosphere.
yeah.
That movie is
it's like-
wicked, actually.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I'm trying to
Colin
think
Farrell's
what else.
amazing.
You what?
It's like Colin Farrell's amazing in it. Like,
Oh, that was one of the only times that our work gave us free tickets because they were like, "We did this," and we were like, "All right, we'll go see it," and we were like,
I'm trying to think what else. Hellraiser 2 had some. I mean, Hellraiser 1 is great. Hellraiser 2, I thought, had some really, really impressive makeup effects when that came out. Like especially like I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. There's a lot of parts where it was essentially like a full makeup that they had on this woman or whatever, where she was essentially skinless.
"Yeah,
So they had to like do all these like really like in-depth like muscle sort of tendons throughout her whole body, and they even like had to cover her in this like she looked like she was constantly had to be covered all the time in like this like really gross like gelatin. Because I remember watching it, and every time that she would touch something, it like this like gross like slimy ooze would be on the walls and stuff. Oh man, yeah.
that's disgusting and also effective."
Even the lead up to it, I remember, like, she, like, yeah, I don't want to spoil it if anybody wants to see it, but the lead up to it is one of the most disgusting things I think I've seen, where, like, the guy's, like, you know, almost, like, basically cutting himself, essentially, to get, like, the human blood into this mattress or whatever.
Oh yeah, I remember that now.
And it's this crazy doctor that is trying to, like, essentially raise her back from, like, the dead, and oh my god, it's so gross. Like, yeah, that'll always burn in my mind when she rises up, and then she eventually like eats like the patient or whatever to try to get like nutrients to like bring her back to like the real
It's like
world.
the Mummy. She gets the stuff and then he comes back.
oh, wow.
Hey, speaking of mummies, here's another movie that I just thought of that I'll always remember from my childhood. Growing up, it was a movie called The Time Walker. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it.
No.
That was a movie where, okay, here's something really interesting about it. So it was a movie that my parents rented, and I'll always remember it because I think my mom thought, or maybe it was my dad, I can't remember, thought that it was like a mummy movie, right? Because it's essentially about this mummy that basically comes back to life. So as you're watching, it's like, oh wow, it's like this mummy that's just like walking around, like trying to find its way or whatever, right? And it would always leave this like weird, like anything that it would touch, it would basically leave this like green residue, like almost like a mold. And it would always like attack people or whatever, right? So basically, like if it touched somebody in the neck, then this like mold would like spread throughout their whole body, and then they would
Google
eventually
this.
like die. Oh
Wow.
man, it's crazy. But get this, there is a plot twist at the very end. I don't know if I should spoil it, but right at the very end, it's like, holy crap, that is really cool how they did it, because they spun it around into this crazy sci-fi movie right at the very end, because they make it out to be this like really like weird like mummy, this really weird like mummy horror film.
It looks fucked.
Yeah,
I've never ever heard of this.
Oh my god! Actually, here, I just because I wanted to talk about it, I actually brought it up here.
Oh, wicked!
So this is a 4-pack. But yeah, so yeah, it's called The Time Walker.
How have I not heard of this?
Oh man, it's I don't know, it's one of these movies where, and you know what was funny? Growing up, I was really trying to figure out what the movie was called. So I was like, and like even my parents didn't even know what it was called, because they're like, I don't remember us like renting that or whatever. Like I don't know what it would be called. So while I was like obviously like doing research on stuff, like watching movies and just sort of like getting inspired by things, I picked up this like 4-pack here, like Roger Corman Cult Classic thing. Just, I think it was in one of these bargain bins at HMV or whatever, right? So I was like, hey, I'll just buy it or whatever, not really knowing what these movie titles were. They just sounded really cool. So as I was watching it, like I got to like seeing all these ones, and then as soon as I got to this one, I was watching it, I was like, oh my god, this is the Mummy movie. Because it had the mummy in it or whatever. And then like as I was watching it, I was like, wait a second, I don't know if this is the same one, but it actually was. It was this mummy that left mold on things, and he was looking for these like
Bizarre
pieces of like diamonds or whatever. Again, I don't want to spoil it in case anybody wants to check it out. I don't know where you could even watch it. I don't know, maybe like
Tubi
TV or something
TV.
like that.
Dude, everything's on Tubi. It's awesome.
But yeah, it's called The Time Walker. It's like pretty crazy.
Even
yeah,
the poster's cool.
It's a mummy movie, but it's not. It's really, really crazy. Like when I saw that, I was like, oh my god, this is the movie. It's like pretty crazy that it's like kind of like more of a sci-fi movie actually, as opposed to a horror movie. But
M. Night Shyamalan.
I'll just always
does
remember it because this mummy literally leaves mold on victims, and they just die because they get poisoned from this like green mold. But it's literally just trying to find its way home. It's crazy, man. Like,
I gotta watch this. This could be a tonight watch.
yeah, man. I'm willing to bet though it is on something like Tubi, because they got the most random stuff. It's awesome.
Even YouTube has full movies, like strange, like the Peanut Butter Solution, I think, is on there. That movie's fucked.
Yeah, you
That
has
movie's
such
pretty freaky too. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, such strange movies you could just watch for free with ads, and some you can just pay for. Like, well, how did YouTube do this? When did this happen? Like, am I crazy? Like,
Dude, Night of the Living Dead is on YouTube. The whole movie.
In color.
Yeah.
like that's insane
Really?
to think about.
Yeah, you could watch the color. Like they did a colorized version.
I've never
of it,
seen that one.
and it's pretty interesting. I still like the black and white one better.
I
But
love
yeah,
that movie.
you can watch it in color on that streaming service there.
There's a 3D version I've never seen, but it's probably horrible.
Wow.
You know what? I remember seeing that in the theaters, and I'll always remember this because I saw it at Park Lane, and it was weird because that was when like 3D movies, especially 3D horror movies, were like, you know, the latest craze during that time, right? And I remember watching it. From what I remember, I didn't like it, but I feel like if I were to rewatch it again, I don't know, I'm always drawn into just really weird stuff anyways. Something tells me I might like it, who knows?
That's fair. We changed.
It has Sid Haig in it.
Oh, that one. Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
I do remember that. Yeah, because I saw the 3D glasses. They were at like Plan B or something once.
Oh, okay. Ooh, that'd be cool.
Back in the day.
I do remember, yes, they did hand out the 3D glasses for it. That's where I was like, hey, this is awesome. And then it actually did say Night of the Living Dead 3D on it. But yeah, from what I remember, I didn't mind it, but yeah, I don't know.
Got my Spy
look at
Kids
those
3D glasses here.
Nice, man.
I have 200
let's
pairs of
go.
them.
Oh, man,
What?
that's
Oh,
really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, there was a really I remember that. There was a really big craze about 3D movies in like the mid-ish 2000s, I remember.
Yeah.
Like, what
Yeah.
else was there? There was that one. There
Shark
was,
Boy
like,
and Lava Girl, I think, was in 3D as well. Wasn't it?
Shark Boy and Love Girl. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it
'cause I went
was,
to-
yeah.
Yeah, because my school used to go take us on field trip to go see these 3D movies. It's cool.
Dude, your school brought you to Clone Wars, too. That's pretty crazy.
That's
Like,
pretty sweet.
we didn't do
Yeah,
that shit.
You also gave us Yu-Gi-Oh cards if we were good, so I was pretty hyped.
Whoa, that's neat, man.
What did they do to you,
Yeah.
Sully? What did they
They
do to
ruined
you?
me. I put myself in debt for a card game.
That's okay. You're in good company, you know?
Yeah, man.
Horror. So I think that my favorite horror music composer, John Carpenter.
Yeah.
Because me and Henry and Cora, Matt Jeanette, we actually went to Montreal to see John Carpenter. He did all of the songs from his horror movies. I always thought it was wild that the director of the horror movie, you know, of Halloween and like Escape from New York and like the Christine, the guy does his own music. Like, that never happens usually. Like, what are other directors that are making their scores? I mean,
I'm trying to think.
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I can't think off the top of my head. Something tells me I feel like there probably is, but I know John Carpenter is the one that stands out the most for me. For
Yeah.
that sort of thing. That
Like-
was really crazy, though, man.
I know that the DOP of Turbo Kid is in Lematos. So
Oh, yeah, that's right.
that's kind of cool because I can't imagine Turbo Kid without that music. And I can't imagine Turbo Kid not looking the way that it does. So he obviously had a huge creative role in that movie. Where is
There's
Turbo
also
Kid
like
2?
another movie that I watched called Christmas Bloody Christmas. It came out, I think, maybe last year now, or actually 2 years ago now. And it was really cool because I don't know if it was the camera guy or it was a crew member of that movie that is also in a band that did the soundtrack for like most of that movie as well, which is kind of neat because it's sort of like crazy, like almost like dark, like gothic rock type music. Really fascinating stuff. But yeah, they're called like Death Crooks. I've actually played them in the shop a few times, but yeah, Christmas Bloody Christmas was like the movie that they did music for. I don't know if they've done music for other films, but yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Did Judge Bitch do? Who did the Hobo with the Shotgun music? Did he do some of
I think
it?
he actually did do some of it. Yes, he definitely did, I think. From what I remember, I know that he did the documentary
Right.
that was with it.
More blood,
But
more heart.
as far as the movie, I feel like he probably did. If not, he probably did like some collaborations with some of the artists that were involved in it.
Because he did he do Kids versus Aliens? I can't even remember.
I know that he was on set for it. Yeah, he was one of the he was the sound guy on it from what I remember. Yeah, he was there, and
I'll
or
have to
was
find
he?
out.
No, I think he was. Yes, I think he was, and he did. He didn't do the sound. There was a documentary that they did for Kids versus Aliens as well, and he actually made the documentary for it, which is actually a pretty cool doc. You can watch that on YouTube.
Oh, I'll have to check it out.
I think he did the music for it as well, I believe. I've only seen the documentary once, and it was when it first came out, so I kind of I don't know. I'll have to revisit it. But yeah, the whole documentary was made by him, and I think he also did the music for it as well, from what I remember. But
Well, he should do a whole movie. I feel like it would be pretty awesome.
yeah.
Directed by
I think he's
Judge
got some
Finch.
ideas too, I'm sure. Yeah.
That's his
Yeah.
tagline right there.
I haven't heard any of his albums yet that I don't like. They're all really awesome. Like, I don't even know how many times we've heard those now. Like,
Judge Bitch rules, man. Adam, he's great, man.
someday
Love that guy.
we'll get him on here and we'll interview him. That
Who
would be
knows? That
awesome.
would be pretty cool. Like, oh man, that would be really awesome, man. I don't know. I don't know. There's something about like movies and music. They go hand in hand, and when you get like two of them together, that can like make a movie so wicked. Like the whole marriage between the composer and a movie. Oh man, it's so great. I love it.
Yeah, dude. James
even,
Cameron says that.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, even going back to like just horror stuff, even stuff like Dawn of the Dead. Like Dawn of the Dead had such good music for that. Like like with Goblin involved in that.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so good, man. Like,
Whenever I hear anything that remotely sounds like Goblin, I immediately think of Dawn of the Dead because I can't associate one without the other. Like, you know it's Dawn of the Dead. Like, fuck, that movie's so good. That's another example of a horror movie that's like, it's not that scary. Like, there's jump scares in it and stuff, like a traditional horror movie, but the whole idea is what is creepy about the whole thing. Just the world ending and you just being like, a mall is where we need to be. Everything is there.
Yeah.
We'll be fine. And then you realize how fucked you are once you're there for long enough and what a horrible decision it was. That movie was so good. Goddamn. George Romero, man. R.I.P.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm trying to think. Another really great movie that had amazing music as well to make it even scarier was Suspiria.
Yeah.
Which also had Goblin in it as well.
That's right.
Man, Suspiria is so good, man. That's another really good movie that, I don't know, combines like really freaky music and it's just a scary movie in general. But it visually, man, oh my god, that movie is so good.
It
Like,
gets
just
better
the-
every time I watch it.
Oh yeah, like yeah, like just the lighting and stuff like that. Just really crazy. Like that's the thing. I just feel like there's a lot of movies. They're almost like too scared to like go outside of the box. But a movie like Suspiria or just movies like that in general, you could tell that they just wanted to go completely outside of the box, erase like everything that had to do with like, oh yeah, we'll just do like kind of like a shot for shot thing. Like movies like Suspiria or just crazy high concept ideas are so fascinating to me, man. Like I don't know.
When they commit to you're right. Like that's why I think like Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 are so. I remember watching Evil Dead 1 and it starts off like a regular horror movie where they're just a cabin in the woods. But by halfway through the movie, the shots have gone so off the rails and the gore is so random with different colored blood that they just kind of like, if they're committing to the whole idea of going off the rails, then it makes the whole thing so much better. Suspiria is another one like that. I remember before we went to see it, I was like, God, Cora, they're playing a 4K restoration of Suspiria at the film festival. And I showed her the trailer and she was like, the blood is like fluorescent red. Like, this isn't scary. And I'm like, we'll just go. And remember we went, they had the sound over what it should be. And it was just like Goblin, like going into your eardrums, into your soul. And the shots were just like so crazy. And I remember after the movie, I was like, so what'd you think? And she was like, I think that was the craziest movie I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, yes, like mission accomplished, you know?
Yeah, man. Oh, that's great.
I wish there is movies like that now being made, but there is a lot of stuff on the market, so it's hard to know what the hell streaming network it's on, or if you know, if it only ever went at a festival and had a limited run somewhere, it's really hard to like navigate these days, I find. Maybe that's what you meant, Sully, but like, you know, there is good horror movies, but it's almost like becoming like there's Shudder and stuff, but
Yeah.
there's just an saturation of a lot of streaming.
It's like I'm not saying there isn't. There's just such a saturation of bad ones that market the good ones that are being made. I find
like the
And
Exorcist prequel or sequel.
yeah,
you know?
the
Oh,
sequel,
God.
and then there's the Pope Exorcist. Let's go. Yeah, there was a lot of bad horror movies that really got more headlines than a lot of the good ones, I thought. And even like actually going to with like music, there's one that did like an opposite thing with like music. Even they got like a lot of attention because it did the same thing. Like just it was Bird Box with Sandra Bullock with not being able to see whatever, and the whole concept is that if you see it, you end up like thinking this is everlasting and kill yourself and whatnot. And then The Quiet Place took a whole aspect of reversing the sound where really quiet, really toned down, which was very different for horror movies to really even do that. 'Cause a lot of times, like horror movies and music go one in one. Like it's because a lot of time music really amps up jump scares, really amps up atmosphere. So taking a lot of it away, an aspect of just simple like that sound design was really interesting take to take a horror movie. I think that's why I did that. That movie did really well.
Man, when I saw that in the theater, I saw it with Matt Jeanette, and obviously the movie was pretty quiet, right? And the guy behind us was eating a bag of chips, and holy shit, I remember Matt turning around and just flipping out on the guy. And but the guy had to keep eating his food, so The Quiet Place was like the chip movie to me. Like it just ruined the whole movie. So I haven't seen it since then, but I know there's a sequel. Isn't there a prequel coming out soon?
I have
That's
no
what I
idea.
heard, yeah.
I didn't know about the prequel. I knew there's a sequel coming out, but I did not know about the prequel.
The sequel has Cillian Murphy in it, right? From 28 Days Later. Another wicked horror movie. Do you remember the soundtrack for that where they have like Godspeed You Black Emperor at the beginning?
So good.
It's like an 8-minute long song that like ramps up into him realizing he's the only person left in London. Like it's so good.
Yeah.
Just
Oh
going
man,
off.
I'm looking forward to the new one coming out for that. I don't know when that is, but that'll be pretty cool. 28 years later.
Sony just bought the rights apparently, so I guess
Okay.
Cillian Murphy or Cillian, I don't know how you say it, but like he's executive producer I think on it, but he's also talking about starring in it, so it'll be like a direct sequel back to the first one, which would be cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, fuck that first
Yeah,
one.
that'll
was
be
good.
awesome.
Yeah,
Oh man.
He's not. Yeah, Cillian Murphy isn't in many sequels at all, is he? Only ones that Nolan is in, like he's just sequentially in Nolan movies, Christopher Nolan movies.
he's in the Quiet Place sequel.
No, I mean just like in more than one installment of movies. I
You
don't
didn't see
recall
Sunshine too,
him. I did not.
where he
even
plays
notice that.
Adams. He's just de-Atomized.
Here,
Also a Danny Boyle movie, surprisingly.
Oh yeah, that's great.
We'll do a Sunshine podcast.
I'm trying to think. There's another really I think there are a few good movies that will be coming out like horror related. I don't know about this year though, but you know what, as weird as it sounds, I'm actually kind of interested to see how they're going to do this like this remake of Faces of Death. They are actually doing one which is going to be pretty weird. I don't know what it's about, but it sounds like it could be pretty fascinating. Obviously, like with that whole Faces of Death thing, like it was pretty controversial when it came out.
I don't even know what it is. What is it?
Oh my god, okay, so alright. So Faces of Death was this movie that it had a lot of notoriety for it, like being very controversial because it was essentially just all of these scenes. I forget when it was made, but it was basically just these like scenes where people were just like dying, like, but it turned out that it was just all fake. See, I actually thought it was real, so I'm like, man, I'll never watch it, although I did. But I was like, you know what? This movie is like horrible. Like nobody should watch this or whatever. But you know what? Like after finding out that it was all fake or whatever, I kind of was like more fascinated by it. I mean, mind you, I think there is like scenes of like, from what I remember, of like, I think there is like animal brutality, which is horrible.
Oh shit!
Like, obviously, nobody should celebrate that at all. But the scenes that involve humans in it, it was all fake. Like, it was all like made up. So they would combine like people getting like put to an electric chair or whatever, and then they would have like scenes of like, somebody eating like a brain of a monkey or something like that. I don't know.
Bizarre.
But anyways, which is horrible. So that they made it more real by like making all these like crazy practical effects of like people getting like murdered or like stuff like that. But anyways, they are actually making a remake of this, and from what I remember, there's actually like recognizable actors in it. Unfortunately, I don't have my laptop or anything
It's
on
Brad
me, so
Pitt.
I don't know. I feel like it's like,
Here, I'll
from
look
what
it
I
up.
remember, I'm trying to remember. But anyways, it's sounds kind of interesting. Obviously, it'll be all just like practical type stuff that they'll be doing, and
Oh shit! The guy from Stranger Things is in it. He was the Red Ranger in the Power Rangers movie.
oh, okay, yeah.
Uh,
So that's what I mean. There's like, so I don't know. I'm kind of interested to know how they're going to pull this off, but
There's some crazy
anyways,
shit.
yeah. Phases of Death is pretty weird. There's a lot of like sort of like spin-offs and that kind of spawned from it back in the day when it came out, but yeah, I don't know.
There's some really fucked up horror movies that they're like. There's certain ones I've gone down a path where I'm like, oh, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I would have when I was younger. Now that I'm older, I've lost so much of my nerve. It's crazy. Like, even when I have to get a needle or I take blood, I'm just like next to passing out. Like, I'm a total wuss with that stuff now. It's hilarious.
like-
I love it.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, obviously, like some of the stuff from like that, I don't know. Like a movie like Cannibal Holocaust, like obviously
Yes.
that's a horrible movie too, right?
That's the one I was
But
thinking of. Actually.
Like for what it is though, like I mean, actually this is something that we could probably chat about in a second here. But like for a movie like that, where he was up for charges or whatever after it was made, because everybody was convinced that he killed like everybody, like all of his actors or whatever.
Yeah.
But then we finally brought all of his actors out and say, hey, no, I didn't murder anybody. The fact that he was able to convince that like in an audience that it's like, oh my god, he actually like did all that stuff. Like that's pretty wild, man. That he even had like all of his actors in on the whole thing, where it's like, yes, you're gonna make it look like that I murdered you.
That's
or whatever.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty wild stuff. So I mean, yes, the whole like there is a lot of like scenes of like animal violence in it as well, which is absolutely horrible. You can actually watch a censored version of it where there is no animal killings in it. It's just straight up like these people going to investigate all these like cannibal type tribes or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And all the like they go missing or whatever. So you could watch that. But yeah, obviously there is like the uncensored version, which is really horrible. But
Yeah.
again, like the whole like the whole like lore behind it, where it's like, oh my god, he like murdered everybody, this is horrible or whatever, right? It's like, I don't know, man, it's pretty crazy, obviously it was one of those video nasties or whatever it's called,
The
where
video
it's
nasty.
like
It's
you
true.
can't, like so I don't know, and it's pretty wild publicity though for like a filmmaker, where it's like, oh crap, you know what I mean? Like maybe I shouldn't have made it, but the hype behind it, where it's like, man, you gotta check this out. This is pretty nuts, man. The guy like murdered all these people.
Dude,
Yeah.
the Blair Witch Project,
Yeah,
there was like,
I was gonna say we touched on this in a previous episode.
Yes,
about
we
talking about
totally
the Blair
did.
Witch Project,
Yeah.
because of how like information was not as prevalent as it is today.
no,
And
there was a
Blair-
website. There was a website
Yeah,
that said they were missing. It was
Yes.
all marketing.
Okay, there was websites. There was a documentary that they made about the Blair Witch Project when that first came out. And even when I was like hearing about it, I actually thought it was like legit as well, right? Because there's these missing students.
Yeah.
Like they again, it was the whole thing where they were in on it with the director, where they had to like hide away for like I think it was a year or something like that after they made it.
I don't remember. I'll have to look into that.
And anyways, they put all these like promotional things for before the movie came out, being like, "Hey, actually, yeah."
He's got
So they even
everything
put
lined
this
up.
out. This came out even before the.
Oh,
movie
I've
came
never even
out.
seen that. What is
This
it?
is essentially like a document about all this information
Whoa,
regarding the missing students and the filmmakers.
that's
and stuff
crazy.
Wow, that's a sick book.
I didn't know it
Like that.
existed.
Anyways, this literally came out before the movie, so everybody was legit convinced that this was like missing people. There's even like a note from the sheriff of Burkittsville or whatever, right?
That's awesome.
Hey,
Like I don't know. See, promotional stuff like that. I don't know. Again, people would with the internet and stuff, they would find that out in a second that it's all fake. You just got to think back in the day though, like there was no like real like sort of stuff like that, like social media that could do that, where it's like, are they actually missing? And they like type it up. But yeah, like I don't know. I just think that stuff like this is extremely fascinating. There's like all this like cool like photos. From
Yeah,
the
dude, those are cool. They show those in the mockumentary too. That premiered like a month on TV before the movie came out. The weirdest part of all of it too, well, not the weirdest part, but one thing that always spooked me out is that they said they found all their film reels and footage buried in the foundation of the burned down house, but it had been burned down for like decades. And you're like, how is this movie getting released if these kids went missing and you're telling us you found the footage under the foundation of a decades-old burned-down house?
let's
Like,
not give
what
it to the
fuck?
police at all. We're gonna put it right to theaters, baby. Like
They gave. That's the
you
thing.
Like this,
They give it to the police and shit, like
you like
in the
this too?
mockumentary.
I just opened up this page, and this is literally, so this is part of it still. This is literally a photo of a woman that was apparently in on the investigation. That is she's essentially a psychic that was involved with the law enforcement to try to figure out where these missing students went.
That's awesome. They'll never do that again. That'll never happen. Like, I feel like we're lucky because I was in grade 9 when that came out, and I remember all of my friends went to go see it, and my mom was like, the kids are missing. Like, this isn't a joke. And I'm like, I don't know. It's in the theater. Like, I just saw Blade. I don't know.
Oh man, one thing that's really funny about that movie when it came out, I forget what it came out the same year. Maybe it was around Halloween-ish time, but I always remember this because when we were decorating for Halloween, there was one night, like I think it was a few nights leading up to Halloween, like my mom actually put like a bunch of like rocks or whatever in like on our property, and some people never got it. Because like, why is there like rocks on your guys' property? But it's from like the Blair Witch movie where it was like oh man, it was just so funny.
That part is fucked. I even like the sequel, even though we all know that the Blair Witch. But hey, not the Book of Shadows, but like the other one.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Book of Shadows. Yeah.
No, I like the new
one though
one.
is really good. I like that new one.
Yeah, I thought it was cool that they tried to like use drones and stuff, and they're like, the Blair Witch isn't going to get us this time, but she got them. And they introduced the whole like story, the plot element of like a time loop. And that's like rewatching the first one, you're like, oh, like they're in a time loop. Like the sun will never come up again because it's going to be dark. Like they're never going to make it out of here, So I thought that was it was really creepy. Like that's some nightmare fuel right there.
Oh yeah.
But we've hit our mark. I'll have to end this.
I was gonna say, I think this might be one of our longest episodes.
I think it is too.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to find a point to like cut you guys off, but it's like they're just talking like really interesting points. It's like I'm just gonna wait for them to whenever.
That's how we roll. We'll have to do we'll do a bunch of horror ones and have you back. We'll have the baby chats and we'll have the apocalypse and we'll have the horror episodes.
Oh man, I'd love to have that. Yeah, like we could talk about all kinds of stuff. Like I don't know, we didn't even touch on like anything like Italian horror.
I know.
a whole nother bag of worms, man. Like, holy frick.
I want to ask you a bunch about Hobo with a Shotgun too on the next one. 'Cause
Okay.
that would be interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you if we could talk about that. That's why I think I was kind of nervous about that thing.
I mean, it wouldn't be anything crazy. We're not going to be like, what color were Rucker Hauer's underwear? You know, nothing crazy like that.
But after we end this episode, you're telling me. Right?
Yeah, we need to know. It's yellow, I'm pretty sure.
Oh man, 100%. Yeah, yeah. We can talk about anything like that. I mean, I got a bunch of really cool like things too. If I'm sure I'm probably allowed to show it, like props and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a couple things though, but
I mean,
yeah, we can talk about whatever, man. Anything like you want, man. We can talk about, man. Heck yeah.
Yeah, I want to touch on like more horror video games and like music
yeah.
videos. I like to talk about horror music videos because I think there's a ton of them.
There's a lot. It's man,
Even like
a lot
short
of like
films,
really
it's
freaky
just,
ones, man. Yeah.
Like, even like the short films, even VHS is like a lot of consolidation of
Yeah.
cool short films. Even like ABCs of Death and sorts of like that.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, like in fact, like there was that one that was even VHS. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up. VHS was the one that was shot around here. VHS 2, and then never mind. There was an ABCs of Death that was shot in Nova Scotia that time.
B is for Buck, right?
Yeah, Young Buck or whatever.
Young Buck or Wire. I can't remember. Turbo Kid came from ABC's, didn't it?
That's right.
So
Man.
it all comes full circle.
Yeah, that's
all
right.
the way back to Linkin Park, Sully.
Yeah,
Oh, jeez.
always.
Hybrid
dude.
Theory.
Hybrid 3, baby. Minutes to midnight. Let's go. Anyways, that's been episode 17. Concept of horror. Everything horror. Yeah. It's kind of weird that we're doing this in like a Valentine's Day kind of month. Oh my God, it's freaking Hearts everywhere. Remember to like, subscribe. We're on Spotify, Apple, everything you can think of. Maybe, hopefully, probably just those actually. Don't take my word for granted. Anyways, we're done. We're gone.